Hiya, welcome to my craft studio. So I'm going to be doing a different shape flower for you today. So it was just to show you that you can really easily cut into your flower foam sheets. So the flower foam that I'm using is the Couture Creations, and it's the Foamiran white sheets. This is a 0.9. So what I have done is I've actually made these flower shapes myself. I've taken a die that I have, but just so all of my flowers aren't all the same shape, I have taken a pair of shaped scissors and I'm just literally snipping around the outside of the petals just to give them that little bit of extra shape, and it just makes them a little bit rough and ready. So I am just going to grab a little brush and I'm just going to take my ink. It's not a special ink, it's just a Decotime chalk ink pad, Radiant Rose. Now, one of the things I do when I'm using foam is I like to colour both sides of the flowers. And the reason that I do that is when it's been heated up on the iron, the petals will curl right round, so there's more chance of you seeing the underside, so they look a little bit more realistic than just having the white plain underside. So I'm just putting some of this ink down just to colour it, and then what I'm going to do is I've got one of these really inexpensive little makeup applicators. I'm just going to take some of that ink, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly dab it around, right on where I've created that quirky little edge of the petal. And then I'm just going to go, if you can see where the die's cut, it's cut into the petals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and just catch that cut line, and then that'll just give it a little bit more shape to the flower when it's actually formed. So this one's the next size down in the set, so it's just that slightly little bit smaller. Just popping a little bit of ink in there. Now I'm going to take a little bit of lime green. I know this looks weird, bear with us. And I'm just going to dab, I just want a tiny little bit of green there. And then pop the lid on that one. The iron's already on. Now, if you haven't seen any of my flower making videos yet, this is just a very basic household iron. It's nothing fancy. This is just that I want one that I picked up in the sale really quite cheaply. I don't recommend using your household iron because different inks and colouring mediums that you use will transfer onto the hot plate. As you can see, that's got a nice little bit of rainbow, and what happens is the ink actually gets up into the wells, so for all you clean it, it doesn't make any difference. It'll be just the thing for you to have a white t-shirt or something, and then you'll press the jets, give it an iron, and all the ink will come out. So this is my purely craft iron. It's the only thing I use it for. Now obviously being an iron, it's very, very hot, so I use my pokey tool just to make sure that my fingers are nowhere near the hot plate, and I'm just going to hold it on there. 1, 2, 3, and take it away. Turn the iron round just in case I catch myself with reaching over for the camera. So I'm ruffling the petals to get all the tips lined up at the top, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them a really aggressive twist. Pop it in my hand and then I'm going to roll it. Now there are tools that you can buy to make this part easier for you. I quite like this process, so I don't mind. Now if you can see, this is the centre of the flower. I don't want to put too much pressure on that because it'll make it a lot harder to open up. So while there's still heat in the foam, I'm just going to stretch the petals. Now if you find this easier, you can grab a ball tool and mould it round the ball tool to give you more shape if you find that easier. I've got quite long nails at the moment, so I'm trying my best not to tear the foam, but there's my first little layer done. So turning the iron towards me, ball tool at the ready, pop the flower layer on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just going to turn that up a little bit. Try that again. And there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can see it. You can sort of see it shrinking down on itself when it's ready. So petals together and twist right at the end. While it's twisted, pop it flat on your hand, and at the tips of the petals, give it a good rub. Now, the Crafter's Companion tool, there's a little silicone finger glove and a little board you can buy that has a texture in it that makes this process quite a lot easier. So if you're just starting out doing that, you might want to take a look at it. It's on the Crafter's Companion website. I don't think it's that expensive, and it is good for starting out. So if you think you might need a little bit of help with it, you can always treat yourself to one of those. So there's the next layer done. And then fingers out the way, make sure I'm facing the right way around. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn the iron away. You can tell the iron's starting to heat up because the foam's a lot warmer. Twisty, 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 and then while it's twisted, in my palm. And this is where you get nice inky palms. So open that up and then stretch those petals. Just giving them a little stretch. As I say, if you find it easy, you can always go in with your ball tool. Just give them a little bit of a stretch with that as well. And there's the next layer. And then the last layer is the one that I put the yellowy greeny centre. So I'm going to pop that on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let it drop off. Iron away. Now I'm just going to unplug that before I forget. Petals all together. As you get smaller, it gets that little bit fiddlier. So if you have got larger dies, try with your bigger ones first. You'll find it a little bit easier, and then you can always work smaller. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to stretch at the base of the petal. We've got a lovely twisted shape on the top, on the tips of the petals, and I don't want to undo that, so I'm going to keep it quite loose and I'm just shaping at the bottom. So there's my next layer done. So for this part, I'm just going to grab my flower foam and foam mat, easy for me to say, and I'm just going to grab couple of wires. These are just Florists wires, you can pick these up from your local florists. And I'm going to use some of the beautiful pale pink Pollen head Stamens. So I'm just going to, first time I'm using this colour out of this set, so they're all tied together. So that's 3, I think I'll go for maybe 5. Right, so for these, what I'm going to do is, it's a beautiful pale pink, but just to match it in a little bit with the flowers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little makeup applicator and I'm going to take the same ink that I've been colouring the flowers with, and I'm just literally going to go, and I'm still keeping the pale pink, but I'm just, hopefully you can pick that up on the camera, I'm just tinging a little bit of the same colour on either side, just to bring the colours through, make it look pretty. Last one. Right, and then put that ink pad away. So what I'm going to do is, you need a sharp tool. So it's whatever you have in your stash. I'm going to use my snips. They've got a really, really sharp point on, and it gives us a little bit of leeway and wiggle room to get a good hole in. I do have pokey tools, but my pokey tool is quite thin, so the tip's not wide enough to make a big enough hole for to get all of the stamen stems through. And so I'm going to use my snips. So you might have a little craft knife, it's whatever you're comfortable using. So I'm just going to line those up, put them in a little bunch, and then I'm going to work out my layers. So this one's obviously my top layer. So I'm just going to pop a nice little hole in the centre of him. Then I'm going to go for this one. So this was the smaller one, these 3 are all the same size. I'm just looking at shape. If you're not sure, you can always lay them on top of each other and just see which looks a good format, which looks the best way round. So I'll pop a hole in that one. And pop a hole in that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that one. Right, so that's the hole big enough. So I will pop that down. Now if this was big blousy flowers, what I would do is I'd probably glue each layer with my hot glue, just to make sure they're exactly where I want them to be. But this is quite a closed cupped flower, so I want it to look quite loose and quite natural. So I am just gonna, so I've created myself a little bobby pin and I've just slid it through the little loop. And then taken that and take it off and do each layer if you want, if you find it easier. So there's one. It's just all about threading them on. go, and then when you get to the top, all I'm doing is I'm going to give that a really good tug. Get it right on the inside. Then I can start ruffling my petals. There we go. Now you just want to secure that in place with a little bit of hot glue on the back side of the flower. And there's your little flower done. So thank you so much for joining me. If you would like to see more of these flower videos, then please let us know in the comments below. If you don't want to miss out on the next video, consider subscribing. It is free and you just get a little notification the next time I upload a video. If you would like to see what I'm doing on social media, then why not pop over and join me in my Facebook group, or on Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, TikTok, you know, all the rest of them. I will pop all the links in the description below and in the first comment. Thank you so much for joining me. Good night.